Hey guys, Nikki from Love of Dirt. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be harvesting some radish. So you may not necessarily like radish or grow it. Maybe you don't buy it from the shops in your weekly shop. It's one of those things that you either kind of love it or hate it. We grow it a lot because it is, number one, so easy to grow, and number two, it is so fast to grow. So we can get a root crop within around 6 to 8 weeks, sometimes less if we want to go for the smaller size. It's actually really underrated because it is so versatile in the kitchen. So you can, eat it raw as a salad. You can pickle it, ferment it, you can roast it, you can chuck it in as a filler for curries and stews and things like that. It is really a versatile veggie, and if you are just starting to grow food or you need something to give you a bit of motivation, radish is really a really good one because it is just so simple. We use it a lot as space filling or intercropping with other plants because it is just so quick. We can get in and out while things are sort of still getting established. So I'll show you how we've got it growing in our front yard, which is where we've got some tomatoes growing now in the middle of winter. So let's go have a look. So here is one of our tomato patches. It's also a lettuce patch. It's also a green bean patch. We've also got some cauliflower, I think some pak choi in here, Swiss chard, there's lots of things. So as you can see, it's planted quite densely. So what I did was I planted my radish first, along with the tomatoes as little seedlings. And now they're well and truly ready to come out. So I'm not sure if you can actually see them because they're quite it's quite densely planted in there. So the idea here is now to clear these out so the tomatoes have more space to grow. So we get this crop in the same time that these tomatoes are growing. So it's a really good way to save space. Let's see if we can get in a little bit closer. But if you sort of get under the canopy here and get past these leaves, you can see we've got some really good looking bulbs in here. The big tip for really getting bulb development on root veggies is sunlight. So these got a lot of sunlight before these tomatoes got going. So if there's any along here that aren't really growing very well, I'll probably pull them out because now that these tomatoes are established, they're not going to get that sunlight. So up there's a few that are sort of struggling to get going, but I'm going to leave a few in here. This particular variety is called a cherry bell, and these are probably about 8 weeks old, to be honest. So they are a little bit overdue to be harvested. So they're going to be quite big, which is good. That's fine. I'm going to do some lacto fermented pickles with them. But yeah, so these ones are well and truly ready to come out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and find any sort of odd looking ones, things that haven't formed very good shapes, and leave the ones that look really good for seed saving. So that's my plan for these. They are really easy to save the seeds for. You just let them go. As soon as the sort of summer heat hits them, they'll go to seed. They have beautiful flowers too, so it's a nice way to bring some beneficial insects into your garden as well. So as you can see here, I don't thin radish. I just sort of let them go. And then I come through, because they bulb up quite quickly, I just come through and pick out the little ones early on, and that does give them enough space to get going. But see, they're perfectly fine. As long as they get enough sunlight, the bulbs will form, and obviously if your soil's in good nick as well. So here's one here that obviously hasn't gotten enough sunlight, so he hasn't formed. He may have also been a little bit too close to that one there, and not gotten enough nutrients. But basically I might leave him, I might harvest everything around him, leave him, see if he does anything in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, definitely if he goes straight to seed, I'm just going to pull him out because he's not worth it. I'd rather have ones that I know are going to form really good bulbs to keep for seeds. Okay, so we're looking a bit bare now. So that's how much room all that those radishes were taking just there. So I've left probably about half a dozen big ones here, the ones that looked really good. So I'll let them go to seed and collect those. And that then has given me a big sort of patch of space. Got some tomatoes just about ready, so that's where they will go. Yeah, so it's a good way to sort of fill spaces and clear it out really quickly, and getting a harvest. Clearly I underestimated the size of the bowl I needed to harvest all of these, so I'll go and clean these up. You can eat the greens if you want to. I find them a bit too spiky, so I'll give those to the chickens and the worms. But there's a lot here, so I'll clean them all up, and then maybe that will fit in my bowl. But yeah, just to know, like, I just did a row of these, just sprinkled the seeds in, and we've been harvesting them. I've been harvesting probably 2 or 3 a day for the last probably 4 weeks, around about that size, which is a good sort of salad size, I think. These are all sort of headed to be fermented, put in a fermented pickle. So I don't really care if they're a bit woody, because they'll just they'll be fine. But yeah, that's just it's a really underrated crop to grow. Super easy, super quick. So if you want to get some food in the ground, get a row of radish going, and see what you can do with it. See if you can get creative in the kitchen with it, because yeah, it is a good easy one to grow. Honestly, the girls are probably a bit sick of the greens by now, but yeah, they do normally like them. We had a stray cat in here this morning, and they're a bit flighty, so they've all been sitting in their coop. That's one of the next big projects for us, is replacing this coop, because we've got a white ant issue. That whole beam has dropped down, so we're moving to a fully metal coop, so we're just trying to figure out logistically where to put it, and if we do a similar design to this or what. But yeah, chickens love these greens, but you can eat them if you want. So here's another example of how I've got it growing in my garden. Carrots, which take a long time, I put a row of radish up in here, so we've harvested a few of these already, and some are really ready to come out as well. But yeah, it's a good little one to intercrop, get a fast harvest from. So some of our favorite varieties to grow are this one, which is the cherry bell. Another favorite is the pink beauty, which isn't as I guess peppery, fiery, and we also love the look of the watermelon radish. It's a little bit trickier to grow. It doesn't grow as fast as the cherry bell and the pink beauty. The other one we have is the daikon radish, and I'll show you how I'm using that in this particular bed. These are actually daikon radishes, so they've got a huge big taproot, kind of like a carrot, but they grow a lot faster and quicker. And you can eat them sort of julienned in stir fries, and they take up the flavor of them, of whatever sauces and stuff you've got in there. They're also one of the main ingredients of the Korean fermented veggie mix kimchi, so they're a good one to do. But what I'm doing here is, this is actually a strategy for this bed, which is quite clay. It's some soil that I bought from a landscaping company about 2 years ago. It's still just like a thick, messy sludge of clay at the moment. So what I do is I interplant my daikon radishes, and then once they get to around this size, I'm just chopping them at that top level, so they'll break down. The root is a big long taproot. It will actually grow and eventually break down. I did another video on this a little while ago. It's one of our clay breaking strategies, but to show you, I still haven't chopped one over here. So here's one on the go at the moment. So he's not that big yet, but you can sort of see his, if I can get in between without killing my snow peas here. Yeah, so you can sort of see he's got this sort of taproot here that's going down. So it's another way of using radish in the garden. So I have had a few people, particularly in my Dirt Lovers membership, have problems with actually growing radish. So a few things that you might want to consider if you're kind of struggling to get them to bulb up in the first place is, number one is sunlight. So if you're doing it as an intercrop, make sure it's the first thing that you plant, so they get going before everything else sort of starts to shade them out. So number one, and that's for all root veggies, so your beetroots, carrots, everything, they need sun. It's one of the things, like you can grow lettuce in part shade and what have you and still have good results, but root veggies, you really do need that sunlight. The next tip is to really prep your soil with a bit of bone meal, so that's going to help with the root development. The other tip is, if you're finding that your radish particularly bitter or it just doesn't taste nice, they should be really crisp and fresh and a little bit peppery. If you're not getting that flavor, that means you're not getting the water up to them, so make sure you get plenty of water. We haven't had a problem with that this year at all. I've barely watered my garden. The only time I really water is when I'm liquid fertilizing it at the moment. We've had a lot of rain unseasonally for us here in the subtropics for winter. The other thing is, they are, for us here in subtropical Australia, they are a cool season crop. You may find that you can't keep the water up to them in the hotter months. They may just go straight to seed. So we do try to, our last planting will be probably August for radish, and then we'll get a quick crop in early spring before we sort of don't plant them anymore. Daikon, they will grow, but I have found that they are particularly bitter over the cooler months, and that's the same with all root veggies, right? So the cooler the weather, the sweeter the crop is going to be. That's for carrots, parsnips, all of those veggies. So it is kind of one that we grow over the cooler months. So one thing we do have problems with is aphids. They can be really destructive, and here's an example of how destructive they've been for our watermelon radish. So I've just cleared out this bed. We had some pak choi growing in here and it was shading out. So these radishes didn't get going before because the pak choi grows really quick. They didn't get going before the pak choi overtook them, and then we got some shade from our beautiful purple potted peas. So they shade them out a fair bit. So that's why the bulbs haven't formed. That's why I've got an aphid situation. So, you know, all these things can be avoided by planning and doing planting it out a bit more strategically. So yeah, we've got ants farming these. You know what I'm going to do? Absolutely nothing. I'm just going to wait until the ladybugs come and sort them out. I'll leave them. Look, I've pulled out the pak choi to give them a bit more sunshine and to give it a bit more airflow, which usually helps with the aphid situation. And what I might do is actually go plant some sweet Alice in here. So Elysium, I think it's also referred to. It's the little white flowers, and that's going to bring in some good guys as well, and keep our garden happy. But typically this time of year we do get aphids. It's a seasonal thing. It happens. It's life. But yeah, we try and do as minimal intervention other than making sure that we've got the plants have everything that they need, and we're giving homes to the beneficial insects to come and keep everything in balance. Thanks so much for watching. Please give us a like and subscribe if you haven't already. If there's anything you want me to cover, please leave a comment below. Anything that you'd like me to talk about, I would love to know. I'm running out of ideas here, guys, so yeah, it would be great. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.